I think gender identity is the ultimate first world problem. If you're really concerned about your gender identity, then you must not have a lot else to worry about. I mean, I understand mental illness and stuff, but I don't see much of an excuse for a functioning adult to be confused about their gender unless they literally have nothing better to think about. Unpopular opinion: I believe people are allowed to have first world problems. Look, whatever you believe about gender, all I have to say is this: who the hell cares? If you are male, female, or identify as something else, I just don't care. Treat each other like people and not as an enigma that needs to be solved. I don't care if you're identifying as a gender, or cis or whatever. Just be a decent person. Edit: just to clarify so there's no confusion, I know some people care about it. I should have phrased it as why care rather than who cares. Sorry about that. Gender dysphoria is a really distressing thing to have, and people in third world countries also have it. It's just because in those countries they have to worry more so about getting through each day with food and shelter, so there's not a lot of attention brought to it. That doesn't mean it isn't still a problem for the people that suffer from it. You can use this logic with anything. Depression, for example, can be classified as an ultimate first world problem. Oh, you're feeling sad? Well, in certain countries you'll be lucky to find clean drinking water. You've been emotionally abused by your parents? Well, in certain countries children are still used for slave labor. Oh, that guy just catcalled you? Well, in certain counties you would be married off and raped at the age of 15. Be grateful for what you have. Just because some countries have it worse doesn't mean that people aren't allowed to discuss the problems we have here. That's like saying you can't be happy if some people are happier than you. People struggle with their gender identity. Let them. Edit: wow, this has blown up. Thanks for the silver/gold, strangers. Happens to people from around the world. People in developed countries just have more opportunity to be open about it and make choices in their lives that honor who they are and have rights to protect them in some cases. There are many cultures that before colonialism accepted a host of different genders/gender roles and had different ways of defining gender other than only male or female. That goes to show that this is not a new thing to get attention. I mean, sure, some people are going to use it to get attention or are feeling confused, but there are always going to be people like that. And their actions shouldn't take away from the people out there who genuinely don't identify with their assigned gender and want to take steps to change it or be identified differently. Yeah, sure. Because people don't get expelled from their houses in third world countries for being gay/feminine/anything different from classic masculinity. And no, they don't get killed or hit because of it. Don't know where are you from, but you obviously don't know the reality of third world countries in gender-related topics. And no, I'm not part of the LGBT and community. People in third world countries suffer from gender dysphoria as well, it's just that there's many other things that they have to worry about which are more important. Just because someone is having problems with their gender doesn't mean they have nothing else to worry about. That's a very shallow and incorrect way of looking at one of the most complex organisms on the planet. And like other people have said, it's not just a first world problem, it's just that in a lot of places you can literally be murdered for it. I would think that a better example of a first world problem is having a problem with people who have gender identity problems. Nah, worrying about other people's gender identity seems like a bigger first world problem. Honestly, with the current narrative, that isn't an unpopular opinion. If it was, that would mean that non-binary people would be a lot more accepted than they are. It's not that hard to see that non-binary people are often discriminated against or at the very least, not recognized. An opinion that's actually unpopular is that it's not really anyone else's business whether someone is non-binary/trans/whatever. What's your point though? Are you disagreeing with the statement? Whatever the case may be, observations like this are at best pointless, and at worst harmful. Being a first world problem doesn't make it any less of an issue. No one argues that it's more of a problem than world hunger. If someone decides to dress in drag, who am I to tell them otherwise? Tell that to the Hijra communities in Southeast Asia. They tend to live in abject poverty, but still care about gender identity. I work with very disenfranchised and poor kids. I've worked with several transgender students before and they identified as the opposite sex from which they're born, but none of them identified as trans. When I explained what trans was, they couldn't understand how or why anyone would want to do that. They were kids, no older than 8 years old. They would exclaim, "I am not transitioning into a girl, I am a girl," or vice versa. I was so taken aback. I couldn't understand how they didn't understand. I watched them grow up, and when puberty hit them, then I saw it. They were absolutely distraught from the realization that they were born in an undesired body. I felt so bad for them, but I never thought that anything was wrong with them. I absolutely, 100%, believed them when they explained to me that they behaved like the opposite sex because they were the opposite sex. I never doubted them. It is absolutely foolish for a non-transgender person to speak on transgender issues. You know what else is an ultimate first world problem? Worrying about what other people think, especially when it has nothing to do with you. Mind your own business. Trans people exist in other countries too. Apart from all the suicides and murders, but okay. I feel bad for people who have gender dysphoria and identify as the other gender. That's gotta suck to feel like you are trapped in the wrong body and shit. But when you start going into gender isn't binary and shit. Sorry, but I just don't really believe that. Edit. I still respect when non-binary people want to be called/viewed a certain way, and I certainly don't think less of them for how they choose to identify because I am not an asshole. But privately I do not believe in non-binariness. I am all about fighting traditional gender roles, but just because you go against the stereotypical view in your society of what your gender should do, doesn't just make you not that gender. If I do something, as a man that isn't manly, it doesn't change the fact that I am still a man or that I still fit statistically significant identifies of what a man is. I also think it's important to note that because of societal changing views on gender roles, stereotypes about those roles are changing/going away. Edit 2. If you want more explanations of my feelings and opinion, look through my post history. I can't keep on saying the same thing over and over again or having the same arguments over and over again.